In the beginning, there was nothing. Nothing to hear, nothing to feel, nothing to see. Only emptiness and darkness. But God was there. And God had a wonderful plan. I'll take this emptiness, God said, and I'll fill it up. Out of the darkness, I'm going to make light. And out of nothing, I am going to make everything. God looked at everything He had made. Perfect, He said, and it was. But all the stars in the mountains, in the oceans, in galaxies, in everything were nothing compared to how much God loved His children. He would move heaven and earth to be near them, always. Whatever happened, whatever it cost Him, He would always love them. And so it was that the wonderful love story began. Dear little flock, you're all wandering away from me. Like sheep in an open field, you have always been running away from me, and now you're lost. You can't find your way back, but I can't stop loving you. I will come to find you. So I am sending you a shepherd to look after you and love you, to carry you home to me. You've been stumbling around like people in a dark room. But into the darkness, a bright light will shine. It will chase away all the shadows like sunshine. A little baby will be born, a royal son. His mommy will be a young girl who doesn't have a husband. His name will be Emmanuel, which means God has come to live with us. He is one of King David's children's children, the Prince of Peace. Yes, someone is going to come and rescue you, but he won't be who anyone expects. He will be a king, but he won't live in a palace, and he won't have lots of money. He will be poor, and he will be a servant. But this king will heal the whole world. He will be a hero. He will fight for his people and rescue them from their enemies. But he won't have big armies, and he won't fight with swords. He will make the blind see. He will make the lame leap like a deer. He will make everything the way it was always meant to be. But people will hate him, and they won't listen to him. He will be like a lamb. He will suffer and die. It's the secret rescue plan we made. From the beginning of the world, it's the only way to get you back. But he won't stay dead. I will make him alive again. And one day, when he comes back to rule forever, the mountains and trees will dance and sing for joy. The earth will shout out loud. His fame will fill the whole earth as the waters cover the sea. Everything said will come untrue. Even death is going to die. And he will wipe away every tear from every eye. Yes, the rescuer will come. Look for him. Watch for him. Wait for him. He will come. I promise.
You know how hard it is to wait? It's just not easy for any of us. And some of us, we really struggle with waiting. I tell my wife, why is it that I always pick the line that moves the slowest? I promise I've got some stories that would astound you how I can pick the absolute worst line. She says, it is the Lord's will to teach me patience. When I was a kid, I wanted an aquarium. That's all I wanted. I wanted an aquarium. And, I'd never had one. I just thought, how cool would that be to have fish swimming around in your room? I just thought that'd be great. No aquarium. I gave up. A week before Christmas, there was a phone call to the house. I was the only one there. I answered. And a lady said, yes, I am so-and-so. I work at Sears. And I just wanted to notify you that the aquarium that you guys ordered is in. This is what I said to her. I'm sorry, ma'am, you have the wrong house. There's no aquarium coming here. I wanted one, but that's somebody else's. And hung up. Little did I know, a few days later, I would open that aquarium. But you see, so many of us give up. And we think, nothing good is coming to me. Just like the Old Testament, they lived in hope, but some of them gave up. Even though there were prophets who continually said, there's a Messiah coming, there's a Redeemer, a rescuer, there's a Lamb that's coming. Some even went to the temple and waited for him. There were some who pretended to be the Messiah. They actually tried to fool the people, but it never worked out well for them. You realize there's 356 prophecies in the Old Testament that are pointing to Jesus coming. And the one I love is Isaiah, who 700 years before Jesus was born said that the people who are walking in darkness, we're going to see a great light. And 700 years later, they did. We have been walking in darkness, folks. The year has done a lot to us. For some, it's taken jobs, it's taken people. For some, it's caused us to question the goodness of God. And for some, it's just confused us, and we've kind of lost sense of that light, that promise that God said He'd never leave us, that He would be with us. Maybe we've come to that place like I had, the aquarium's not coming. Or for some of you, you're not getting a pony this year. Just give up on it. We think those things don't happen to me. They happen to other people, but there's nothing good going to happen. And we're right at the edge of abandoning hope to give up on Jesus. Maybe He's not as good as I thought He was. Maybe He isn't the light of the world. And so we think that's it. And I'm telling you, there's a chance. In fact, I would tell you, don't ever give up. Never give up. Just like those who believed and heard the story that He's coming. Believe it. Hang on to it. And I know you're sitting and you're listening and you're saying, so you're telling me there's a chance? Yes, there is. There's a chance. Simeon was an old man who would go to the temple and wait for Jesus. Anna was an 84-year-old widow who showed up at the temple. In fact, some believe she actually lived at the temple. And why was she there? She was waiting and watching because she knew one day He was coming. And for both of them, one day, their wait was over.
Everything was ready. The moment God had been waiting for was here at last. God was coming to help His people, just as He promised in the beginning. But how would He come? And what would He be like? What would He do? Mountains would have bowed down. Seas would have roared. Trees would have clapped their hands. But the earth held its breath. As silent as snow falling, he came in. And when no one was looking, into the darkness he came. Now, Mary and Joseph had to take a trip to Bethlehem, the town King David was from. But when they reached the little town, they found every room was full. Every bed was taken. "Go away," the innkeepers told him. "There isn't any place for you." Where would they stay? Soon, Mary's baby would come. They couldn't find anywhere except an old tumble-down stable. So they stayed where the cows and the donkeys and the horses stayed. And there, in the stable, amongst the chickens and the donkeys and the cows, in the quiet of the night, God gave the world his wonderful gift. The baby that would change the world was born, his baby son. Mary and Joseph wrapped him up to keep him warm. They made a soft bed of straw and used the animal's feeding trough as his cradle. And they gazed in wonder at God's great gift, wrapped in swaddling cloths and lying in a manger. Mary and Joseph named him Jesus, Emmanuel, which means God has come to live with us, because of course he had.
So he's here. He's come. The waiting is over. He's here. And even those disciples that walked with Jesus on the earth, they saw him. One of them named John, who writes the fourth gospel, the Gospel of John, says that he saw him and he was the Word become flesh that dwelt among us. He also says he's the light of the world. Listen to the first chapter of the Gospel of John, verse 4. "In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it. True light, which gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not even know him." He is here, the light of the world. Later, John tells us that Jesus came and invited those to follow him, and he said, "You will walk in the light because I am the light of the world." Light comes to show us the way. I mean, that's the point of light. That's why you need light. And for all the flashlight lovers in the room, we're never caught without light. I have a flashlight everywhere. I can't promise it has batteries or that it works, but I love flashlights simply because I want to see. I just want to have a way to find my way. That's exactly why Jesus came. Because there's some dark places in our life, and only He can shine light there. There's some dark places in this world, and He's the only one that can shine a light there. His glory, His light fills the earth. Just like a father had a contest with 3 sons who all wanted the inheritance. He said, okay, there's a contest. There's a way you have to do to get this inheritance. And he gave each of them a little money. He said, I want you to go buy some material that will fill up this room. And they were in a small room. He said, you buy the material, and if it fills up the room, you get the money. Well, they went out, and it wasn't much money to buy the goods. First one bought feathers. He said, well, I'll just buy feathers. They're cheap, and I can fill up the room with them. He ran out of money, and the feathers didn't fill the room. The next one went out, and he bought hay. And so he piles this hay in there thinking, oh, this hay will fill that room up. And nope, the hay didn't fill it up. The third one took his money and went and he bought a candle and a match. And he walked in the room, lit the candle, and the light from the candle filled the room. And the father said, the inheritance is yours. That's exactly what Jesus did. When He was born, He filled the earth with the light of the glory of God. and he shined into dark places. And you know what the Bible says? The darkness could not overcome the light, which means no darkness could stop him. Even from the birth of Jesus, there were those who tried to stop him. I mean, there was always a plot to kill him, to silence him. Even to the point of death. I mean, my goodness, they carry him to a cross and they nail him to a cross. Not for his sin, but for ours. And they bury him. And they rolled a stone over the entrance to the tomb just to make sure there was no way this light was out. No way that anybody else would follow him. The light was gone. So they thought. And on the third day, God rolled the stone away. And the light of the world walks out. And not only has he filled the earth with his light, he has now filled death and the life beyond with his light. And he invites us to believe and to follow and to believe that he is the light of the world. We need light this year more than ever. There are places in our life, places in our thinking that maybe have grown dark just because of all that we've been through. And maybe we've all had those dark moments this year. Mine involved health. I remember lying in a bed thinking, God, why would you let this happen to me? And it was a moment of darkness. And as soon as I had that thought, I thought of the light. I thought of his peace. I thought of the promise. And then more importantly, I realized he was right there with me. And you know, it's amazing what happens when you light a candle in a room. It fills the room with light. And wherever Jesus goes, he fills that area, that space with light. And he's come that we could know him. We could experience that. And so for all of us, no matter how dark your world is, darkness can't stop him. The darkness has already tried. Light overcomes every time. You go out into the night, I mean, maybe in the city, you look up and the stars, you can barely see them because there's a lot of other light around, so-called light. But you go out in the country, you go out where there's nothing else, and the stars come alive. And you see the sky like you've never seen it. So maybe we've learned that in darkness, his light just shines a lot brighter. In the darkness of our life, that's when we see him and his glory. But you have to open the window to let the light in. You have to say, Jesus, yes, I believe. And when you open your life to that light, it's amazing what happens. And the light that fills your life and shows you the way. We're going to sing a song that is simply entitled, Let the Light In. And you may know the song, and if you do, I certainly want you to join in. If you don't, just listen and think about the words. Because the song says, open up the window, let the light in. And then it builds to this beautiful chorus that says, hey, gates, open wide, let the King of Glory in. Because he is here tonight. Let's open up the windows. Let the light shine. And I want you to sing it. If you know it, sing it loud. If you don't, just listen and let's celebrate. Jesus Christ, the light of the world, has come. Let's let the light in.